There are some lies in our science books. Taught it for 15 years. Even though I'm not teaching it anymore, I still like to study. It's so many neat things to learn. We're going to cover some of that tonight.
Perception is being managed. We are being steered and guided by a hidden hand.
The whole world has been duped by the media that is not real.
Smart thinking, possible time traveler, smart thinking.
That night, boom, contact memory.
And then just, Alex, if you don't agree, you'll be sent to a re-education camp.
Just because I'm old doesn't mean I've lost my touch with the ladies.
A lot of people here tonight felt like they lost. You know why?
Now, experts are suggesting that we're in a golden age of shape-shifting reptilian sightings. Now, why is that?
I was, and still am, a huge conspiracy guy. I literally ran out of new tin hat topics to research.
It was most definitely not capable of melting steel.
Then I would be a crackpot if I thought that was the case.
Welcome to the Hypothetical Institute, a podcast about conspiracies.
My name is Luke.
I am Salt.
I'm Cam. Gentlemen, how are we?
I like Salt. I am Salt.
Yeah.
Just super short. Just it was good. I enjoyed it.
To the point and concise.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I was thinking, the good thing about Salty's introduction, Robbo, is that he says his name and that's the name that everyone calls him. Whereas for the last 200 episodes, you've called yourself Luke, and I don't think we've ever referred to you as Luke once.
Yeah. You've referred to me as Luke so many times.
Sure thing, Robbo.
Don't try and rewrite the historical narrative based on you might just want to call me Robbo sometimes. What's the topic here? What are we doing?
Today we're talking about the Zodiac Killer.
Finally,
Unmasked.
A podcast is going to tackle murder mysteries.
Yeah.
I bet you after we do this one, there's going to be this whole fucking new massive influx of podcasts about murder mysteries. I bet you they're going to be called like murderies.
Zodiac Killer.
Yeah. So sort of in the realm of, I don't know what you'd call it, accurate criminology? That genre is what we're getting into today?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not really conspiracy then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's about things that were against the law that actually happened.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a word for that. Non-fiction law breaking.
Okay.
This is what our podcast is about today. Yeah. But there's a tiny bit of a conspiracy here because the people who have come out and said we found the Zodiac, they have a little conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Which is that the cops don't want to hear about it.
The distinction of the Zodiac Killer, I think, that puts it firmly in our wheelhouse is there's little codes.
Yeah.
And there's a mystery around all the codes and who's in on it, who knows about it, what they even mean.
Right.
Rather than say a Jack the Ripper who just murdered a bunch of ladies.
He wrote letters though, didn't he?
Do you even have codes in them though? I think the codes
he didn't muck around with codes.
Yeah.
How many people did the Zodiac Killer kill?
Not that many.
One for each star sign, I'm assuming.
No, I think it's less than 10.
Okay.
Right.
Are we
informative start?
Sorry, are we talking about the entire Zodiac Killer thing, or are we just talking about the case breakers?
I don't think we need to relitigate or rehash Zodiac stuff because there's probably 100 podcasts doing the exact same thing.
Yeah,
100 is probably an underestimate. Yeah. So there's a new development in the case happened last week, Tuesday, Wednesday-ish. What was it, Cam? I reckon you're probably the most across it all.
Well, yeah, because you messaged me that morning being like, big day for you.
Yeah.
The Zodiac Killer has been revealed by a group called the Case Breakers.
Yeah.
To be a bloke called Gary.
All right.
Gary Francis Post.
Gaza.
I remember seeing people were disappointed that it was just a guy called Gary. But like, what do people think? Did they think it was going to be someone that they already knew? Oh no, it was the Gary that I know, not just a like. It's what bothers me about.
I thought he was going to have a more exotic name.
Yeah, or like
Lucius.
he was it was Ted Cruz or something for real. Like it reminds me of when people are like, let's find out who Banksy is. Well, you're not going to know the person, so who cares?
Yeah. Also, Banksy's the same thing. It's just going to be some British guy.
Yeah, it's just Gaz. It's just Gaz.
I mean, people are like, oh, Gary doesn't seem like a very serial killery name. It's like, well, firstly, there've been a bunch of serial killers called Gary.
Yeah.
And also, he does have a serial killery name, Gary Francis Post. Like all serial killers, he's got a three-banger.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have a middle name as well. Does he go by his middle name?
I don't think so. That's just a little joke about the way that criminals are referred to in the media.
John Wayne Gacy.
They always have three names, which is more about so people don't read about John Gacy in the paper and be like, oh, that's my neighbor. That's a killer.
Yeah.
Who just happens to be called John Gacy.
And that's why I'm never going to get caught.
Because you've only got two names?
No middle name.
You don't have a middle name?
Nah.
How's that come about?
We've covered this on the podcast.
Have we?
Definitely. Yeah.
What's going on, Salt?
Don't have one.
Oh, geez, Louise. Does that cause you trouble when there's like a field for a middle name?
No, just leave it. It's always optional.
Yeah, that's never mandatory.
It should be.
No, it shouldn't be.
You want to exclude Salty from filling out forms.
I feel like it should have been mandatory on the birth certificate form.
Middle names are for cowards.
Yeah, I know. I like it. Get out of here, middle names.
What's the point of them?
There's a guy in the beer industry who's like a CEO of a brewery, and his name is Will Smith, but he goes by William.
Right.
And you just know that he's going by William because it's like, I just can't be Will Smith.
Yeah.
I can't send emails as Will Smith.
I feel like your parents have like sort of made a rod for their own back there, Salt. Like in terms of getting angry at a child.
Yeah.
Like you're never going to be able to get to that level of saying their middle name.
Right.
You don't. You just don't know. You can't relate to any of this stuff.
Nah.
All right, that's fine. We'll just leave that then.
For me, it just went first name and then fucking whack.
Jeebus. All right, so
Gary Francis Post has been revealed as the Zodiac Killer by a group of retired detectives known as the Case Breakers. So called because of all the cases they break.
Right. What other cases have they broken?
They broke the who was that dickhead that jumped out of the plane?
DB Cooper.
They broke the DB Cooper case.
Okay.
And they broke the Jimmy Hoffa case.
All right. Both two very famous still mysteries.
Yes. So this is a criticism that some have leveled at them, is that their credentials are perhaps a little bit lacking.
Right.
So DB Cooper, they're like Robert Rackstraw is the guy. We did a thing on DB Cooper, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think we talked about Robert Rackstraw in that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Doesn't ring a bell.
We did. So he was like a prominent DB Cooper suspect. So it's not like they've pulled that out of nowhere. This is not some big revelation from them that this guy might have been DB Cooper. And I think that all that they managed to accomplish with that is apparently he like lost his job.
Yeah, like didn't they harass him until basically it ruined his life?
Right.
I don't think that. Well, so they came out with it in like 2016, and then I think he lost his job at the time, and then he died a couple of months later. So,
right.
Way to make his last couple of months peachy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he had all that DB Cooper money to fall back on.
Well, I was going to say, like, the first problem with identifying DB Cooper, if he's got a job, then it's probably not him because DB Cooper had a lot of money.
I think he had a lot of money at the time.
Yeah. Was it a lot of money in 2021 money?
Well, if you invest it, then inflation, like,
I suppose.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if you just have it in cash under the floorboards, the inflation doesn't really have an impact on it. It just gets worth less.
No. What? No, $100 then, if you had a $100 bill and you had one then.
Yeah.
And you have it now.
Yeah. Do you think that $100 bill becomes more because of the passage of time?
Yeah. No, you're right.
That $100 could buy you a lot more back then.
Yep. You're like, right, I'm wrong.
Just to reiterate, no. And the other guy they worked out was Jimmy Hoffa. So,
Jimmy Hoffa is something that I know from television and movies.
Yeah.
What is that? Do you have a summary of what Jimmy Hoffa is?
If you want a quick summary, you could watch The Irishman on Netflix.
Okay, isn't that a famously long movie?
Yeah, that's just a quick summary. Jimmy Hoffa was like a union boss. I think. What are they called? What's
Teamsters?
that?
Teamsters?
Yeah, he was the Teamsters union guy.
International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
What does Teamsters do?
I think...
if I know anything from The Simpsons, they hang around in parking lots on movie sets.
Yeah, they lounge about, they smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
Shake people down. To be honest, I don't know exactly what the Teamsters do.
Represents diverse blue-collar and professional workers from both public and private sectors.
Truck drivers and stuff like that. People
Yeah,
who work in manual labor. Yeah.
Their logo is it's got 2 horses in it. It's pretty cool. Good logo.
So Jimmy Hoffa was like the boss of the Teamsters, and one day he just disappeared.
Right. Allegedly murdered by the mafia.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But they reckon that they cracked that case. And this is the thing, like all of their cases that they crack seems to be because like somebody has just come to them and been like, oh yeah, my dad killed Jimmy Hoffa or whatever.
Right.
Which is when I first saw this Zodiac thing, the very first time that I saw it sort of framed was like, finally someone's coming out and saying they found the Zodiac, and it's not someone being like, oh, the Zodiac's my dad.
Right.
Which is sort of a thing. People come out and be like, oh yeah, my dad was a dead shit. I reckon he might have been the Zodiac. Or they're like, oh, my dad was always, a real asshole. I reckon he might have been the Black Dahlia killer, blah, blah, blah.
It's a really good way to just get some revenge.
Yeah.
So, but was he was a prick, but he was really into Sudoku.
Yeah.
So I think he was probably the Zodiac Killer.
But like, because these guys didn't have any sort of personal axe to grind, that was counting in their favor a bit. And I have to admit that when the very first time I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that does count in their favor actually. That they don't have like they're not pushing their own barrier here. They're sort of removed emotionally from it.
Well, his daughter-in-law, Gary Post's daughter-in-law, has come out and said she believes he's the killer.
All right. Well, see,
this is an article, San Francisco Chronicle. She told the paper he was the Zodiac Killer without a doubt. And the police sketch from 1969 was like a bell ringer for me. Being around him, knowing his demeanor and his shadiness and twistedness, I have an intuition. I can read people. It's my birthday today, and this is all coming out as a great birthday present for me.
That seems like a bad birthday present. Also, that sketch is famous, right?
Yes.
We'll get back to this. I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves. But
yeah. I just wanted to mention the because it feels like she's got a whole another backstory of her interaction with him that needs to be kind of, I don't know. Yeah.
But
anyway,
that's the same to me. That's an incredibly famous sketch.
Yep.
It's like it's been in Hollywood movies. It's been all over the place. I feel like at some point, especially if your dad was the Zodiac Killer, you might have come across that sketch.
Yeah.
Before some randos came out and said your dad was the Zodiac?
Well, so that's the famous sketch, I think, was updated.
Like, yes, we'll get back to the sketch.
Okay.
Just still on the Jimmy Hoffa thing, it turns out their actual evidence against in the Jimmy Hoffa thing is someone being like, oh, I think it was their granddad had shown them a playing card with, I think, Jimmy Hoffa on it, and like a skull and crossbones and a location, and being like, oh, when I die, go check out, this is where we buried Jimmy Hoffa. Anyway, they went and dug up where Jimmy Hoffa was supposed to be buried, and there was nothing there. But they're like, oh, this hole's already been dug up and filled back in, so they've moved the body. Like, that is just a oh, my dad's the Zodiac Killer thing. It's like, oh yeah, my grandpa killed Jimmy Hoffa. Like, it's not out of any sort of real research. It's just someone has come to them and told them a story.
Yeah,
and that's the evidence. So those were their credentials. 2 famously unsolved cases are the ones they claim to have cracked.
Great.
All right, so they point the finger now at Gary Francis Post. Because, so this is like a couple of years ago. Was it like 2017, Robbo? That the FBI start poking around his hometown?
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago.
Do we know why the FBI started poking around?
No, I think because he had some sort of group. Like he was doing, what's that word? Why can't I think of it? You know, people in America that want the world to collapse so they can go hide out in a bunker.
Yeah.
What are they called? Preppers.
Yeah, he's a prepper.
Yeah, so I think he was involved in that, and he had a bit of a crew doing some shady things, you know, prepping guns. So but I don't know what led them to the FBI thinking, and maybe they've never actually said publicly, or what led them to thinking he was the Zodiac Killer.
Well, I don't think the FBI thought he was the Zodiac Killer. I think they just thought he was up to no good.
Right. No, because I'm not sure what led the FBI to Gary Post, other than just him being a prepper. But yeah, maybe they've just never said why they, you know, because I can't imagine FBI are like, oh yeah, we thought it was him, and here's all the evidence we have. But yeah, he certainly has been mentioned, because that's why his buddy kept on posting on Facebook.
Yeah,
photos of him and being like, oh, you know, me and Gary Post hanging out, Zodiac Killer? ?
Also, I think that what had happened was that the FBI had been hanging around looking into him, possibly because he was involved in some shady business. And then it has started a rumor around town that he is the Zodiac Killer. And that's why the FBI are in town.
Yeah.
And then that's why his buddies are like, oh, Zodiac?
Yeah. Which is like, that's just classic razzing. If you're razzing a mate,
yeah.
If your mate has
been accused of being one of the most enigmatic serial killers of the 20th century, you got to razz him about it.
Man, if Cam, when you get accused of all those crimes, but no one's really sure, I'm going to be razzing you all the way. Get ready for
Cam,
a razzing.
When we start the podcast, be like, hey, how was your week, boys? Yeah, good. Cam, you didn't murder anyone, did you?
I came to. All right, boys, don't commit any murders on the way to the car, Cam.
So that's sort of, I think that is where the rumor came from, though, that because it seems like he was a bit of a dodgy bloke.
Yeah.
It started a local rumor, and then it has sort of blown up, and then at some point they might have even looked into the rumor. This rumor has gone around and has made its way to the case breakers.
Yep.
And so then they've gone about trying to prove that this was the guy. And so one of the key pieces of evidence is what we were talking about before, the police sketch, which does bear something of a resemblance to photographs of Gary Post.
Okay.
But one of the big things is, like, on the police sketch, he's got like all of these lines on his forehead.
Yeah.
And Gary Post had all of these scars on his forehead that sort of, they do kind of match up with the lines on the sketch.
Yeah.
The thing with the sketch, though, is firstly, it was the sketch of someone who had seen the Zodiac Killer out the window of their house on the street in the dark, from a fair distance.
Yeah.
Just after he'd killed Paul Stein, the taxi driver. And so obviously you're not going to get, I don't think you're going to get super accurate detail on any forehead markings from that distance. And it turned out that sketch, that was like the police sketch artist was like, well, I can't have an empty forehead. Like everyone's got wrinkles. It's going to, like, if I put out a police sketch with no wrinkles on it, people are going to be like, oh, so we're looking for the babyface killer.
The Zodiac Killer has a lot of worry in his life.
Yeah.
He's gonna have some wrinkles on his forehead. That's just how it goes.
So yeah, he's put the wrinkles on, and apparently, like, afterwards, the witness was like, "I never said he was like a super wrinkly dude." can we take those off? And they're like, yeah, easily. It's all in pencil. And so they took it off. Like the updated police sketch, they were like, oh yeah, sorry if we like misled with how wrinkly this guy was. He just has he's got like the normal amount of wrinkles, you know?
Did you guys think if you saw someone briefly and had to describe them to a police sketch artist, like I'd love to know how accurate I could be.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I'd be fucking so inaccurate.
Yeah, same.
They would go and arrest Cam.
Well, I was thinking about
that's because of all the murders that he did, am I right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. It's like, if I was asked to describe you, Robbo, for a police sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could paint a word painting.
Yeah. Viggo Mortensen with a New Zealand accent.
Yeah, basically. But like, I don't know how helpful it would be for like bringing you to justice.
Yeah.
I'd be like, have you seen that show fucking Mr. In Between? You know his mate in it?
Yes.
It basically just looks like that guy.
Yeah. Just a weedy version of that guy.
Probably a slightly more handsome version of that guy.
I'd say about 1-to-1.
Yeah, okay. I mean, he's a TV actor, so he's probably pretty handsome.
Yeah, this is true. And he's a degenerate like you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you watched it yet, Luke?
No, it's on Amazon, right?
I think it's on Binge.
Binge. I think it might be on Amazon as well.
Oh, maybe I'll watch it on Binge. I have the Binge. Okay, so the wrinkles were too many.
Yeah, like, because the sketch artists just made them up.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll dial that in."
Yeah.
It's like, and then the sketch artist wasn't happy. He's like, "No one's got no wrinkles. This is crazy." So you can't please everyone all the time. But that's like one of the smoking gun in this case for this guy being the Zodiac Killer is he's like, he looks exactly like him. Even the scars are bang on. So the other sort of thing that counts against him is one of the murders that is attributed to the Zodiac, although I think has been like sort of separated out of the Zodiac case a little bit, was the murder of Sheree Jo Bates, which happened in October 1966. I think she's considered to be like possibly the first victim of the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
And so she was killed at a library where she had been studying. After that happened, they found a poem sort of scraped into the bottom of a desk in the library. And somebody also sent a letter to the police or maybe to the newspaper. Oh, they sent a letter to the newspaper and to the dad of the murder victim, where they were like, oh, this is the same person who has written the Zodiac letters, and we reckon it's probably the same person who wrote this poem. And so that's the connection to the Zodiac case. Anyway, at this murder scene, they found a watch that had come off somebody's wrist. Like the strap was broken. And it was like a Navy issue watch, like a one that you get in the military. So this guy was in the armed forces, so he might have had one of these watches, which were very common. Like they handed them out like candy. It also had a bit of paint spatter on it. Post was a painter by trade, so he might have had a bit of paint on his watch.
Yep.
That's about it.
That's the evidence they've got.
That's pretty much it.
Did you see the selfie picture?
No.
So one of the evidence they've got is a photo from their press, and it's in their press release, and it's a photo allegedly of Gary Post that like someone had sent them, and he's supposed to be apparently allegedly wearing a hood, which is what the Zodiac Killer allegedly wore in some circumstances. And they've included this in the evidence of this is Gary Post wearing such a hood. I describe it, or I wouldn't even describe it as such. I'd say it's a water stain on some wood.
Yep.
It's not actually a photo of anyone in a hood or anything. So I've just put a link to a PDF in our chat, and I'll share it on our social media on Twitter. Page 2 of this PDF. This is all the evidence they've got. The 1980s selfie in hood for silhouetted pic. Can you guys see that one yet?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a picture of some wood.
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be his shadow?
Yeah, they're saying that he's taken a selfie of his shadow.
But
and it's not really clear where it came from.
Is this actually... well, it's not really a selfie to take a picture of your shadow. That's not how a selfie works.
No.
The wood to me, it doesn't even look like a wooden wall. It looks like a super close-up picture of some wood.
Almost like fake grain.
Like it's a really close-up picture of wood.
It's not clear where they got that picture either.
Like, look, if you look at it, you can see the cracks in the wood. It's a photo taken of wood that's been taken about 10 centimeters away from a piece of wood.
Mm.
It's not like it's even far enough away that he would be able to cast a shadow that small on it. Like that's almost a macro photo of wood with a fucking weird stain on it.
I'm just going through trying to work out where they actually claim.
You can almost see like a woodworm fucking track through it. It's that close up. From the bottom left, it kind of tracks its way up to the top.
Yeah, so that's their evidence, or part of their evidence.
Nailed it.
Yeah, we've got them, boys.
So I guess the other bit of, I mean, that's stupid. There's also one of the other photos they have is of like this guy. Firstly, it's annoying. They just refer to him as Zed throughout the thing. It's like, well, no, you don't know that.
Yeah.
You're getting ahead of yourself. But they've got a photo of him on a snow hike. And I guess in this photo, he's walking.
Yep.
So he's like mid-walk, which is like a sort of specific way to, you've got 1 foot up in the air, right?
Yeah.
Classic walking.
And then they compare that to the police sketch of the type when the Zodiac Killer attacked the people by the lake. And he's wearing the mask we were just discussing. And he's got like the Zodiac hoodie on.
Yeah.
And so their sort of posture is similar, but it is just.
But is the police one? That's not supposed to be like this is a sketch of the criminal, right? Well, it just looks like a fun. It almost looks like someone's drawn it in a comic book.
Yeah, from the illustrated history of the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like, this is what he was wearing. If you see a guy with like a crazy mask on and a hoodie with the Zodiac's logo on it, and
he's pointing a gun at you,
especially if he's pointing a gun at you, that might be the Zodiac Killer. I don't think it was supposed to be. Compare this photo where he's like standing in a particular way with this other photo of a guy walking, and so his body is like in a similar sort of position.
Also, is this like a crop top hoodie?
Yeah, it's an interesting look, isn't it?
It's like it's very short, and then you can see his shirt hanging out underneath it.
You could, like, if someone did an entire fashion show where that was the vibe, like that outfit that he's got on, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's somewhat fashionable right now. Definitely not what I expected the Zodiac Killer to be wearing at the time.
So their other bit of evidence, which I don't think we've actually seen the math on, is that they reckon his name is in the ciphers or in one of the ciphers.
Yeah, so if you take his name out of one of the ciphers, you get, like, it all makes sense.
I think it's supposed to be an anagram.
Yeah. I watched a video. So a few of the ciphers have been confirmed solved by like the FBI. Some Australian guy solved them. And I watched how they solved some of them. I got to say, I'm not convinced.
Well, so the big one that they solved either last year or earlier this year was like the one that had gone unsolved the entire time.
Yeah, Z340.
Yeah. And the way I think they have solved that because it's a thing where they applied a sort of a replicatable scientific method to it. And when you run that, and you don't have to like make shit up or like move.
No,
things
they
around.
had. I watched the whole video of how they did it.
Oh, so
there was spelling mistakes. They're like, oh, look, this letter. We think these letters are in the wrong place, so we're just going to move them over this row.
All right, so I'm going to get to that. But like a lot of the people, when they're solving these things, they're like, well, so if you change all of these letters around to this, this, and this,
yeah,
then it reads like this, and there's a whole bunch of letters that just don't make sense. But you can find these words, and you can see like there's a word here and a word here and a word here and a word here, and you put them together and it makes sense.
Yeah,
but it doesn't like read top to bottom, which is how traditionally
like
we read things. Yeah, it's not like a Wikipedia
Yeah.
page. You've got to pull the words out of the mess, and you're like, there we go. Like there's his name. There's Bill in the middle of this.
Yeah.
The guys that put it together, they ran it through like code breaking software that they designed specifically for this. And yes, at one point they were like, all right, all of this doesn't make sense, but if we shift everything over one line, then it does make sense.
No, that's not what that was at all. They shifted they shifted one line across a little bit, and then it made sense in the sense of I'll read it out to you. I think the first solving before they then went back and changed a bunch of letters. So this is already after they've changed letters.
Yeah.
It says sue her because now have enough slaves to worve for me where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. Paradise is spelt wrong, apparently, in all of them.
Yeah, because he just spelt paradise wrong. That was one of his fun things.
So they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I vow that my new. So that's the solve before they've gone in and fixed up a lot of the spelling and then maybe added, changed some letters.
Yeah, but
after they've also shifted a whole bunch of letters around in the cipher as well.
That's a good solve, though.
Is it?
It is.
Our bar needs to be higher then, I think.
No, well, that's a good solve because the whole thing reads, it's consistent with other stuff that he'd written that they know they solved. Right. But the thing where they move stuff around, like some of these things when they move stuff around, they're like, we're just going to move random letters around to make it work.
Yeah, so they did.
But this one, they were like, all right, we've worked out how this code is supposed to work. And we've worked out if you fucked up this line, if you lost your place and went down a line on the system that you were using, then the system would change to this. And once they replicated that, they're like, all right, let's just say that he fucked up here. He lost track of what he was doing. If we just move it down a thing, then the whole thing starts making sense again.
So, making sense with tons of illegible words.
Well, no,
and don't get me wrong. I know that these guys are probably super intelligent and understand code breaking far better than I ever will because I don't know anything about it. But
we've seen your codes.
Yeah, you've seen my codes. But yeah, if you get it and it comes back and it's I am not afraid because I've now that my new. I don't know. I'm not going to be convinced that you've solved a code. And if Zodiac is so smart enough to create this complicated system of codes that no one can solve, but also when you solve them, they don't make any sense.
Well,
there's a problem somewhere for me.
His spelling was all over the place.
Yeah.
But I think they also, the way they sort of get to it is it's a bunch of codes from different how to make a code book.
Yeah, okay.
If you run them all together. So they did have to run it through 5 different things, but it's not the way that some of them are let's just change it all so it says, oh, my name is Barry.
Yeah.
And then we'll work backwards from there.
I also found another guy on Reddit that claimed he solved them with a different solution and solved a bunch, which have different words come out. His one is, I feel bad, I'm evil D. I felt like I needed killing. It's code I like. I roll tab, add a letter. I write life elitism. And to me, that's just as convincing as the other one.
Well, so that first one was they did crack it last year. That is accurate. But these guys haven't even said what they reckon they've cracked.
Yeah, so this is all entirely separate to the guys we're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. So their other thing is that they reckon that they found a guy who was in Post's Posse, that he had like a little criminal posse that would like roam around just doing crimes.
Oh yeah.
It's weird because they have like a sample from the interview they did with this guy. He had a great side. He just didn't have a conscience. He could kill indiscriminately. And I mean, he's pretty much proven that over the years. He couldn't even stop after he moved up here. He still had to continue to kill, even if it was small animals, just to make himself feel better. I've seen him kill bears, deer, otter, ferrets, marmots, just anything that lived. He liked to shoot them, watch them fall down. He liked to mess with the carcasses when he was done. He just got bloody. So the big sort of like evidence thing is this guy who's like, oh yeah, he just would kill all the time indiscriminately. I mean, only animals.
Also, wait, can you list those animals again?
Bears, deer, otters, ferrets, marmots.
Okay. It's just because marmots, otters, and ferrets are all kind of similar, right? For a while there, I was like, well, is he killing like long boys only?
Then just chucked in bears.
Yeah, he went for a bear. Yeah. Hey, wait, is a marmot a long boy? It's not, is it? It's a short guy.
I don't actually know.
Marmot's a short guy. Marmot's like a groundhog thing.
Right.
The other little thing that was on here was so there was like a Californian TV news anchor, Dale Julian, who patiently listened to this guy Will's story and his story of escaping from this criminal posse. And the reason that he patiently listened to him is because he was on a Zodiac targeted bus as a youth. When he was a little kid in 1969, he was on a Zodiac targeted bus.
Right.
So the thing is, though, the Zodiac targeted every bus in California.
Okay.
He made a very general threat against the school buses of San Francisco.
So anyone that took a bus in the time of the Zodiac,
was
targeted.
So this turns into a scary 1969 ordeal is what led him to patiently listen to this guy when he popped up and said, oh, I was hanging out with the Zodiac Killer. It's like, no, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It's like, was it really that much of an ordeal that your dad drove you to school for a couple of days?
So what's the angle then of these guys? What's their deal?
I feel like these guys, especially if you look at some of their previous cases, they exist in this weird sort of, again, I don't know if there's a word for it, this non-fiction law-breaking world where if you can come up with an angle on one of these things, there's someone who's willing to give you money to make a TV show.
Oh, that's right. Isn't like the main guy of this like a TV guy?
Yeah, I think that some of these guys have they've been like consultants on TV shows and things, and now they're like spinning them into little, we talked about this the other day, but like the History Channel and the Discovery Channel, like they're turning into, the Alien Channel and the True Crime Channel.
Mm.
And so this is just like, I don't know, a 6-part doco series.
I feel like they've missed the boat on the big bucks for this world. Like, Netflix and other places have done a whole slew of true crime and serial killers of that era or last century. And I feel like there might be a little bit of fatigue. And now they've kind of gone too late, and the most they can hope is a podcast. They'll get a good mattress sponsorship, but they're probably not going to get those Netflix bucks.
I don't know. The guy who says his dad was the Zodiac Killer got a Disney Plus show.
All right.
Oh, there is one other thing here.
So he's the Mandalorian.
Yeah. There was a woman who was babysat by the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, yeah.
He taught her how to use guns,
yep,
etc., etc. Recently, this woman caught up with the wife of Post on the phone, and she said something that stunned Gwenny. I'm sorry that I didn't tell the cops about his Zodiac past. Like, that's pretty cut and dry.
Mm.
Except Zodiac is in fucking square brackets. She never said that. But the actual quote is, "I'm sorry I didn't tell the cops about his past."
You just added the word Zodiac, and that's not. As someone that does a word in a square bracket when a word's missing,
yeah,
that's not how you do it.
No, it's pretty loose square bracketing.
Yeah, that's the loosest square bracketing you can do.
Yes.
Anything else, then?
Okay, so then the other stuff that came out after these guys put out some like pretty dodgy evidence was like people on the internet went and found like way more compelling evidence. It's not any more sort of accurate, but it's certainly more compelling. Like what you said before, his mate who posted a bunch of photos with him on Facebook. And it was just like Zodiac question mark.
Yeah.
Which like in the context of people looking up whether this guy was the Zodiac Killer is sort of pretty I don't know, it says something. But there was also there was like a Zodiac Killer forum where people would put down different suspects that it might be.
Yeah.
And at one point someone put this guy's name forward, I think this was after the FBI had been mucking around in the town. And then someone using the name Gary posted. They're like, yeah, what's the deal with this guy? And I think that's probably just someone like signing up with the name because they want to know more.
Or someone just pretending to be someone else on the internet.
Yeah, but there's not any proof or suggestion that it actually is him. And also that would be sort of weird for him to, as the Zodiac Killer, to log on with his own name. You'd think he'd sign up as the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
The best thing I saw, and I was so gutted that it turned out to be faked, was on like an IMDb review of a Ted Bundy documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Someone faked it up so Gary Post left a review where they're like, this guy was overrated. It's like, if that had been real, that would have been like the nail in the coffin. I would have come 100% around on it being him.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think there was that on Reddit? Because there was a guy posted as Gary posted on Reddit a couple of times as well on things sort of tangentially related.
Yeah.
But it was after the FBI thing. So like, you know, his name was connected with at least some people in the zeitgeist.
Yeah. For me, all you need to know is that the ZodiacKiller.com guy says, nah, it's not him. No way.
Who's the ZodiacKiller.com guy? Is that the real mystery?
No, I think his name's known. It's Tom Voigt.
Oh, yeah.
So he's like, of all the Zodiac Killer nerds, he's like the one that's read the most about the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, okay. He's read the most. Yeah. And yeah, he's not convinced. Does he have any theories?
Yeah, he's got a couple of theories. So one of his theories is Arthur Lee Allen, who's the guy from, if you watch the movie Zodiac, that's the guy that they say it is.
Yeah.
The guy with the Zodiac brand watch who they suspected of being the Zodiac Killer. When he was questioned about it, he was like, look, if anyone told you they saw a bunch of blood in my car, I can explain that. And they're like, we didn't even ask you about that, bro.
That's pretty good.
And there's like, he also really likes a guy called Richard Gaikowski, who there's like just huge amounts of evidence that it could be him.
Right. So he's definitely not convinced. That's old bloody wood grain posty.
Well, his thing was like, if your main thing is the wrinkles, then it's definitely not him. Because the person didn't say, oh, he's got a bunch of wrinkles. That was just somebody else came up with that.
Yeah.
Nobody who actually saw him ever said, oh, this is a very wrinkly fella.
Yeah.
I don't think that they weren't. The guy's not supposed to have wrinkles. He's supposed to have like scars from brain surgery.
He was also a young man in the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at a side-by-side of him in 1983 versus the sketch in 1969. I don't think they look similar either.
No.
He looked similar as he got older, There's a photo in like 2007 of him. And you're like, oh yeah, I can see that's the same guy because he's got the same haircut as the Zodiac, and he's got wrinkles now. He's a wrinkly guy.
He aged into his police sketch.
Yeah,
but I guess in closing, the conspiracy part of it is that these guys are like, because the cops have come in and said, nah, we have not closed our Zodiac Killer case. Which, we're probably not actively working on that hard, but we haven't seen anything that gives us any reason to look into anything. And these guys are like, what are they covering up? Because I saw this with the guy that said the Zodiac's his dad as well, when he was like, all right, police do a DNA analysis. And they're like, nah. Because if they ran the DNA of everybody who came out and said, oh, I found the Zodiac Killer, I feel like it might impact on their ability to run the DNA of like active crimes.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you do go and run the DNA of the Zodiac, that is knocking back, a contemporary case.
Yeah. What is a DNA test? What's it involved these days, though? Like, surely you just put it into one of those Theranos machines, right?
Yeah, you just chuck it in the Theranos machine. Well, I think it's basically chucking it into a machine and it does the thing, but there is a backlog.
Okay.
So with all of these labs, there's already backlogs. There's already justice not being meted out because there's massive backlogs, and eventually they're like throwing out people's DNA, and so cases go unsolved. So to then throw in, just any podcaster that comes up with, my dad was a bit mean to me. I don't see it as being very politically friendly.
So what you're saying is, I'm never going to find out if I'm 100% that bitch.
No. But yeah, that then turns into, why don't they want to look into it? It's like, well, you haven't given any actual reason for them not to want to look into it. At least with a bunch of these other cases where they're like, my dad was the Black Dahlia guy and he was a cop. You'd be like, I can understand why they're not in a hurry to solve that one.
Yeah.
This one, you're like, the Zodiac Killer was just an asshole. He was a criminal. He loved doing crime. Like, they don't have any reason to not look into that. The Charles Manson one, that book that came out a couple of years ago, Chaos.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was great. But it's like the cops have a reason not to, like, someone's coming out and being like, oh yeah, Charles Manson was a CIA brainwashed police informant.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance that he was.
Yeah.
Like, you can understand why they're not in a huge hurry to be like, he was part of our dodgy police informant CIA brainwashing program.
That's right. He was definitely MK Ultra.
Oh yeah,
like
100%. And there was a lot of questions about why he was given such a light touch by the law.
Yeah,
but like for the cops, they don't want to be in a hurry to solve that sort of thing, because it's like either he was an informant or it's just we were really bad at our jobs. So it's like we can just not do anything. It's like the Kobayashi Maru, right, Salty?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the Kobayashi Maru?
It's a no-win situation, but they found a way to win. You can just turn off the Holo program.
This is a bloody Star Trek thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
So yeah, that's how we can justify this on our conspiracy show. I felt I had to.
The search for the Zodiac goes on,
mm-hmm.
And we'll probably these things are never getting solved, right? There's just no way, because there's too much distance and too many charlatans muddying the water. And also, if it does get solved, if it's not Gary, it's Pete.
Yeah.
Well, so he's probably dead, and he's probably been dead for a while. The only way it can really get solved is, let's say it's not someone that anyone has ever heard of. It'll get solved because, like, they'll finally get around to cleaning out their house. They'll be like, oh, that's weird. This wall's hollow. They'll open it up. There'll be a little box of keepsakes with, like, some sort of evidence. Because he kept stuff from crime scenes. If you could come and say, I've got a piece of the taxi driver's shirt, and it's not the one that the cops already have, I've got the other piece with his blood on it, then they can be like, all right, it was your Uncle Bob was the Zodiac Killer.
It was bloody Jeffrey Zodiac all along. The clue was in his last name.
If it was one of the like guys that was most likely him, like Arthur Lee Allen or Richard Garkowski, like that stuff, none of that stuff exists anymore. All of the evidence you've got is what the evidence that's already against them.
All right, so Zodiac Killer, not solved.
Not solved.
The news ran it so hard like it was solved as well.
Yeah, it was Fox News that picked it up as well. And they just went with it. And it's like, I feel like when they went with it, it was because you could see, let's run it like it's a thing, and then we can just run it wasn't a thing news. We got like 2 or 3 stories out of this thing.
Yeah.
But whereas if you just run it initially as like some charlatans came forward today,
nothing happened.
But yeah, I saw like the San Francisco Chronicle or like a bunch of these newspapers where they're like, now we're not normally in the habit of just running this guy's the Zodiac story because there's so many charlatans who come out with this guy's the Zodiac stories, but we just made an exception for this one.
Because they retired FBI agents, they get a lot of weight out of that, don't they?
Mm. But yeah, lots of people retire from jobs.
Yeah, and they're not just strictly retired. Like, there's it's just whoever wants to sign up basically to their little club. Yeah. All right. Zodiac.
There you go. All right.
Go, indeed.
If people want to find us, they can do so on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Hypothepod. We're on Patreon. Thank you to Tammy, our Cook $33 sponsor.
Thank you.
Luke, where can they find you?
Thank you, Sexo. You can get me at aleofatime.com for beer stuff.
Salty.
You can get me at Saltmarsh on Instagram and Twitter, and The Salt on Twitch for some art streams.
And you can get me at Sexenheimer on Twitter, Passaran, and Gather Around Me and my other sort of podcast things.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't worry about a thing, except if all our world leaders are alien reptilians. I said don't worry about a thing, except maybe the fluoride in our water supply contains mind-altering drugs. Don't worry about a thing, except whether or not Port Arthur was a false flag operation in which to disarm Australia. I said don't worry about a thing. I accept you can definitely hear John Lennon say I buried Paul at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever. Ooh, don't worry about a thing, except not only did Bush do 9/11, but he also keeps the planes out in Area 51, which, let's not forget where all the aliens are. Don't worry about a thing, except Donald Trump is clearly a woman and you're just blind if you can't see that. Why don't you open your eyes?